Yo, what is going on, guys? You already know it's the Orlando, and today, guys, I've got the top 10 rarest builds part 2. If you guys missed part 1, man, make sure to go in my past videos and check it out. I'll leave the link down in the description down below, and also check out my last video, man. A lot of you guys didn't check it out. I know this video is a very popular video. A lot of you guys are gonna want to check this video out, but the video I posted the other day was super entertaining, and I took a lot of time out of my day. It took me like 3 days to record and edit. So if you guys want to check that one out, it was me donating to streamers. I was giving out challenges and they had to complete the challenge to make some money, and that video is one of many to come. I'm gonna be doing more of those challenges, donating to streamers type videos. So if you guys are a streamer or you have a streamer that you want to make some money playing 2K, man, make sure to go in the comments down below, do hashtag OGNation, and let me know, your YouTube or Twitch name, and maybe I'll come check you out and give you a challenge so you can make some money. But make sure to check out that past video from a few days ago. But in this video, let's just get right into it. The first build on the list is the shooter. The shooter, man, you don't see this build anywhere. You're gonna want to make them into a small forward. All right, once you go into the small forward, the first pie chart you're gonna want to choose for this build is the defensive shooting. That's the red and green pie chart. Once you pick that one, the second pie chart doesn't matter. For all these builds, I always pick the speed one, the very first one. So with that one, you click on that, and once you get into the attributes, you're gonna want to end up getting attributes so it adds up to having 1 finishing, 17 shooting, 1 playmaking, and 13 defensive rebounding badges. His height is gonna be 6'9". You're gonna want to go 6'9" and max out the weight at 260 pounds. And then for the wingspan, you're gonna want to go to 84.9. As y'all can see here, the final stats on this build, you're gonna have a 79 mid-range shot, 75 3-point shot. Decent shooting stats for a small forward. The defense is kind of it's not all that great. The finishing and playmaking also isn't that great, and this is another reason why you guys don't see this build in the park. It's just not a great build overall. Once you complete that, you get a choice of 4 takeovers, and after that you get the you have built a shooter build. And this build is terrible, and that's why it's on the list. The second build on the list is a super popular build from 2K17. Everyone used to say they made a stretch glass cleaner, a glass cleaning stretch, or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't really a build in 2K17, but you know how glass cleaners could shoot like crazy on 17? Well, this is what that build is. A stretch glass cleaner. You don't see it very often in the park, but yeah, you can make it this year. You're gonna want to make them into a power forward, all right? And then you're gonna want to pick the first pie chart. It's gonna be the red and green one again, the defensive and shooting pie chart. And then I picked the fastest speed, whatever pie chart that is. And for the attributes for this build, you're gonna want it to come out to having 1 finishing, 16 shooting, 2 playmaking, and 18 defensive rebounding badges. And then after that is done, you're gonna want to make this build into the height of 6'7". Yes, a 6'7" stretch glass cleaner. It's kind of weird, right? Being 6'7" as a power forward, but hey, that's what you got to do if you want to get this build, all right? And for the weight, we kept it at the same 218, and the wingspan, we went with the shortest wingspan, 79 inches. As y'all can see the stats here on the left, you get an 82 mid-range, an 81 3-pointer, and then your passing accuracy and ball handle's kind of high for a power forward. Your inside finishing game is actually pretty good at a close shot 84. Your driving layup and driving dunk is actually really good, and your defense is actually not bad at all either. Your rebounding's high, your block, your steal, your interior defense. This build is actually not bad at all. The only flaw this build has is the height and the wingspan. That's what kind of makes this build terrible, and that's why you don't see much of this build at the park or in the rec or anywhere in the game in general. But you do get a choice of 4 takeovers if you do decide to make the small build. And after that, you have built a stretch glass cleaner. And trust me, guys, I tried making it 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". It just wasn't working. you have to go with 6'7" to get this build. That's kind of weird in my opinion, but hey, if y'all like it, that's why it's on the list. The next build on the list is the Rugged Wing. I know a lot of you guys have not seen this build at all. It's not a very common build, and I doubt you will ever see this build in the game. It's kind of similar to the Prospect build, which was on my first list, and you guys have probably seen a lot of people make videos on a Prospect. This is very similar. It's a terrible build, but I'll show you how you make this build. So you're going to want to make them into a small forward, and then you're going to want to go to the all red pie chart, the defensive one. All right, and then for the attributes, you're going to want the attributes to come out to having 4 finishing, 4 shooting, 3 playmaking, and 15 defensive rebounding badges. All right, and then after that, you're going to want the height to be 6'8", and the weight you can leave it the same, 222. And for the wingspan, you can also leave it the same. As y'all can see, the stats on the left, the finishing, the shooting, the playmaking, and even the defense is terrible on this build. But yeah, you do get 15 defensive badges, but the stats are just subpar, you know, all in the 70s, some in the 60s. This build is just terrible. It should be like the Prospect build, right? You think you're gonna get the Prospect build, but no. At the end of the day, it says you have built the Rugged Wing. And this build is horrible. It's super rare. I doubt anyone will ever make this build for the park, but hey, that's why it's on the list. The Playmaking Glass Cleaner. Who in their right mind wants to make a Playmaking Glass Cleaner? Well, there is people out there, and this is how you make it. The position is going to be a power forward, all right? And for the first pie chart, you're going to want to pick the red and orange pie chart. You know, the red and orange, the defensive and playmaking pie chart, all right? And after that, for the attributes, you're going to want the attributes to come out to having 13 finishing, 1 shooting, 16 playmaking, and 19 defensive rebounding badges. This build does get a lot of badges, all right? You're going to want to make him 6'10", and he's going to be at about minimum weight at 200 pounds. And for the wingspan, you can just go with 86.9. And the stats on the left hand side, you guys can see here, the inside game is actually really good. The close shot, the dunk, the layups is a solid build. This build also gets a 70 mid-range shot. You cannot shoot 3-pointers, but you can hit your midi, of course, with this build. And then your passing accuracy is really high. Your post moves is pretty high. And your defense is actually pretty good. Your rebounding is really good. Your blocks really good. Your interior defense is decent. And yo, overall, this build is actually not too bad. Even the height's not bad. And then you get a choice of 3 takeovers. And once that's done and over with, it tells you have built a Playmaking Glass Cleaner. You don't see this build much at the park because no one really wants to spend their attributes on on passing for a big man. And well, that's why this build is on the list. The Multi-Position Defender. This is another build you don't see much at the park. I think I've seen it once. Someone actually made this, and I think I played against them. I remember seeing this build at the park, but it's not very common, and this is how you make it. You're going to want to make them into a small forward. And for the first pie chart, you're going to want to obviously go with the mostly red, all defensive pie chart. And then for the attributes, at the end of the day, you're going to want it to say 8 finishing, 1 shooting, 7 playmaking, and 26 defensive rebounding badges. And for the height of this player, you're going to want to make him 6'8", 222 pounds, and max wingspan. That's 89.6. As y'all can see on the stats of this build, is actually not bad. The finishing is good. The mid-range shot, you can probably hit it. And you know, the playmaking is decent. You can't dribble, but you know, the stats are kind of high, so it's not bad. And the defense is out of this world, you know, like defense is high. It's good. It's really good. So if you guys just want to make a defending build that can hit a midi and finish in the paint, you guys can actually get away with making this build. He's a small forward. He's tall, 6'8". And yo, this build, once you finish it, it's going to say you have built the multi-position defender. And that's what this build is actually going to do. It's actually a very good defending build, but it's still very rare. No one really makes it like this. And that's why it's on the list. Passing and handling. This is another build you don't see much of, and it's actually for a very good reason, because you can't actually make this build. The only way to make this build is when you go to the building section here, you press triangle and the preset builds actually pop up on the right hand side. You scroll down and you find the handling and passing build, and boom, you get it instantly. It makes you a 6'3" guard that has handles and passing, and it shows you the stats. Has 7 finishing, 12 shooting, 28 playmaking, and 1 defensive rebounding badge. As y'all can see in the stats on the left, this build's actually not too bad. It can speed boost, it can shoot, it can finish. The defense is complete crap. That's the only thing about this build. If you're gonna make this build, you're not gonna be able to play defense. It's not a 2s build, it's mostly a 3s build. But yo, the defense is trash. But besides all that, you don't never see this build at the park, and that's why it's on the list. Two-way post playmaker. A two-way post playmaker. You don't see this one at the park too often, and this is how you make it. You're gonna want to go with a blue and orange pie chart, the finishing and playmaking pie chart. After that, you want your attributes to end up looking like this: 20 finishing badges, 3 shooting, 13 playmaking, and 6 defensive rebounding badges. And after that, you're gonna want to go with the height of 6'10", 275 pounds, with a wingspan of 86.9. And then y'all can see the stats here on the left. The finishing is remarkable, really good finishing stats. You can shoot a mid-range with a 71 midi and 83 passing accuracy, and the defense is actually really terrible. So is the rebounding. This build is kind of like not very good. It's called the two-way post playmaker, but the defense is trash, and your post moves are not even maxed out on this build, and that's just really weird on why they make it say that. But you get a choice of 4 takeovers, and then once you pick one, it says you have build the two-way post playmaker. This build is horrible, and that's why it's on the list. The point power forward. This build is super rare. I don't think I've ever seen this build at the park ever. And yo, let's just get right into the build. You're gonna want to make him into a power forward, obviously, and for the pie chart, you're gonna want to pick the mostly orange playmaking dominant pie chart. And then for the ending stats on this build, you're gonna want to have 1 finishing, 15 shooting, 13 playmaking, and 9 defensive rebounding badges. For the height of this build, you're gonna want to make him 6'7", 218 pounds, and minimum wingspan. That's an 80 wingspan. And then y'all can see this is a very small build for a power forward at 6'7", but the shooting's actually really good. You have an 80 mid-range and 75 three-pointer, and your passing and handling stats are super high. You have an 86 ball handle on this build. That means this power forward, this point power forward, can dribble, which is insane. But your inside finishing stats are horrible. Your defensive stats are actually really bad as well. That's why no one really makes this build, but once you do, you get a choice of 2 choices of your takeover. Once you pick one, it says you have built the point power forward. Super rare build, horrible stats, but one of the very few big men that can actually get all the dribble moves. And that's why this build is on the list. The well-rounded point. This build right here is really rare. You don't see it too often. You can also make the well-rounded guard, the well-rounded wing, and the well-rounded power forward or stretch. You pretty much just have to follow the same recipe. You pick your position. For this one, we did point guard. And then for the first pie chart, you're going to want to choose the red and green one. And then after that, your stats are going to want to read around 5 finishing badges, 10 shooting, 7 playmaking, 11 defensive rebounding badges. You're going to want to go with 6'4" on this build, 195 pounds, and you can have a wingspan of 80.6. The stats are actually not bad. The finishing is pretty decent. The shooting, is decent. Your dribbling, you can't dribble. It's kind of like the downfall of this build, but I mean, they're decent stats. Your defense is decent. Everything is just decent on this build. And then you get a choice of 4 takeovers, and once you pick it, you have built a well-rounded point. I mean, everything on this build is super decent. It's just well-rounded, and yo, this name fits this build perfectly, and that's why it's on the list. The Rim Protector. The Rim Protector is a super rare build. A lot of people just end up getting like the Paint Defender. That's like a very common build. You have built the Paint Defender. This one says you have built the Rim Protector, and this is how you get it. You need to make this build into a center, and you're going to want to pick the red and green pie chart, the ones where you make like a glass lock. And after that, you're going to want your final badges and attributes to read at 1 finishing, 13 shooting, 10 playmaking, 17 defensive rebounding badges. And after that, you're going to want to make this build 6'11", about 240 pounds, and the wingspan at 93 inches. As y'all can see the stats on this build, you can shoot 3-pointers because you have a 69 3-point shot. You cannot shoot mid-ranges. Your inside finishing game is actually pretty horrible. Your passing and handling is decent, and your defensive stats are actually not good for being called a rim protector. It's just your block is high and your interior defense is decent, and I think these stats is what makes it get you the rim protector, you know. But after that, you know, you get a choice of 3 takeovers. You pick one, and at the end of the day, it's gonna say you have built a rim protector. This build is also terrible. That's why you don't see it at the park, and that's why it's on the list. I hope you enjoyed watching these top 10 rare build videos. This is part 2. Make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe for some more 2K20 content. And yo, like I said, make sure to check out my past videos. They're all super lit. I put in a lot of effort into these videos, guys. But yeah, guys, I'm Dio, and I'm out.
Look at me now, I came up. I've been thinking back then when I almost gave up on the game, cause I never got in my way. Never got my mama whip on the driveway. I've been making all hits on a Friday. Back then I was getting like no plays. I'm never gonna change, no Kanye. Gotta get a Lambo like Green Bay. I made a lot, but then I gave